So guys, just in previous video we have learned lot of things regarding the single neurons, and we will compare in the previous video. Just we compare the logistic regressions in the point of view a single neuron. Now let's try to understand what is the multi-layer perceptrons. Means that it is not a single network, it's the connections, it's the collections between the lots of neurons. So let's try to understand it first. So in MLP, in full form, it's called that the multi-layer perceptron. Okay, let's write it. It's called that multi-layer perceptron. In short, we will call that things as a MLP. So so if we just first try to understand in graphical way how it's look like. So the multi-layer perceptron, instead of a single neuron, we will consider here that there are lots of neuron here. Suppose let's for simplicity, we have a input vector xi which had that, let's take different color. Xi is an input vector which has the, suppose let's take, we have here that 4 features for that particular input vector. It's called that input. Okay, 4 features we have: x1, xi1, xi2, like that, xi3, xi4. For a single input we have 4 features. Okay, and then now here, instead of considering here a single neuron, we have considering here the, let's take the 3 neurons. 3 neurons, let's say it. This is called that activation functions. That means that in biology it called the cell body, but in mathematics it called that is activation functions. So these activation functions for a neuron, it will be the same one or it will be the different one. So this, if it may be, it's depend on the situations, it depends on the problem. This activation function may be equal or it may not be equal. Okay, so here if we make the connections between these three, here I have taken here that instead of a single neuron, you have taken here the 3 neurons. Okay, so if we just make connections between them, how it's first connection, second, third. For these connections is for that first features, these connections. Now let's take a different color. Just for second features I am using this color. Okay, the second features, let's take for third features I am using is this orange color. Sure, and this color I am considering here for taken the fourth features. Okay, this is the connection. So how much connections we can made here? So this is the input. How much features for the input layer we have? How much vector? So how much quantity? How much features? 4. Okay, good. And how much activation functions we have? 3. So total how much? So total 4 into 3. So total 12 we have. The 12 connections between the input to the this layer. Okay, in the next video we will see how to remember these things, how will notations age weight vector, age activation function, age output vector, how will. So in the notations part, in the next video we will see, but let's try to understand first that this activation function first. So now after making this, it's a single neuron, the collections of all the neurons is called a multi-layer perceptron. Not it's a single neuron, we call this perceptron. So here, because instead of a single perceptron we have consider here the multiple perceptron, so we call here that it's a multi-layer perceptron. So it's a single layer, this layer is called a single layer. Okay, let's write it. It's a single layer. So again we can consider here the one different layer. Suppose let's take, we have another layer. Here in the layer we have 2 different neurons. Let's take F. And in that neuron, in this layer of the neuron, it may be this function, these activation functions may be same functions or it may be different functions. We don't know. It depends on our problem, how much it's look like. Okay. So here it's that another layer. it's another layer. And if we make the connections, so let's like take the different color. So here, here, and different color from here to here, and different color from here to here. So how much connections is the 3 for this layer? For this layer, how much activation function, for how much neuron we have, how much perceptron we have? 3 perceptron. And for this layer, how much perceptron we have? 2 perceptron. So total, if we consider how much connection we can build here, just guys remember, here connection means that weight value that we have to find out in the time of the trading. What will be the weight value between the edge connections? That's our job, main motto. Don't forget that things. So these, how much connections we have here? 6 connections total. Suppose let's take here, this is that final output that we want to achieve here. This is that final output layer. So this, that 2, here we have single one. So how much connections? Only 2 connections we can arrange. Let's, instead of, let's make the same symbol. Okay, and after that we got here the output yi hat. This is called that input, and from here it's called that output. Okay, and this layer is called that, just before of that output, this layer is called that output layer. Output layer. Okay, and this between input and output layer, these 2 layers are called that hidden layer. Here we have 2 hidden layer, but when we go to the deep neural network, more complex situations, then we will see how much layer we can, how much neurons for each one. It's a very complex one. So you will see, don't be confused, we will see one by one. And this, just try to first understand the structure of the neural network, then we will go to the deeper Okay, let's, this layer are called that hidden layer. This layer is called the hidden layer. Okay, and for this hidden layer, so for this hidden layer, this layer we call suppose let's that layer 1, layer 2. Here we denoted layer 1 for this layer, and this is the layer 2 for this layer, and this is the output layer. Okay, that's the simple structure of a multi-layer perceptron. Means multi-layer means we have to make the connections between the lots of perceptron. That's the main thing. So, and one thing, why would needs that things, why we actually need the multi-layer perceptrons? So we will see that things in the point of view of complex mathematical equations. We will see that thing in the next video. Okay, how actually it's useful to predict a complex one. In next video we will see using a complex mathematical equation we consider, and how we represent that complex equations in the form of a multi-layer perceptron. We will see that thing in the next video.